Lockhart is a selfish young man who only cares about his career. He's so focused on his job that he's placed his mother in a nursing home, thinking she's just a distraction. The story begins when he's called into a meeting with the company's top executives and board members. During the meeting, he reads an open letter from their CEO, Pembroke. In it, Pembroke says he's at a wellness spa in Switzerland for a 2-week break, but he has no plans to return. He also accuses the company of shady and illegal financial activities. Pembroke makes it clear that he will never approve their upcoming merger with another finance corporation and warns them not to contact him again. After reading the letter, the board decides Lockhart should be the one to bring Pembroke back to New York. They threaten that if he fails, he'll be blamed for the entire scandal. With no other choice, Lockhart accepts and heads to Switzerland. Once he arrives, a man named Enrico drives him up the hill to the spa. On the way, they chat, and Enrico says he can't understand why wealthy people from around the globe keep coming to this spa. Their talk is suddenly interrupted when a local villager throws a drink at the car. Enrico doesn't react, as if it happens often. He explains that the villagers have a dark history with the people who live on the hill. 200 years ago, the land was owned by an aristocratic family. The last baron was obsessed with keeping his bloodline pure, so he decided his sister was the only one fit to bear his child. The church rejected the idea, and in defiance, the baron turned his back on God. On his wedding night, angry villagers attacked, burned the couple alive, and destroyed their castle. Later, the place was rebuilt as a luxury spa for the rich, who come seeking a cure for their inner emptiness. When Lockhart reaches the spa, he finds out visiting hours are over. He schedules an appointment with the manager and steps outside to make a call, noticing a creepy basement window in the process. Later, he meets the manager and asks to see Pembroke. After taking drops from a strange blue bottle, the manager explains that their treatments work best when guests avoid the stresses of the outside world. He says the spa sits above an ancient underground water source with special healing properties. Lockhart notices a picture of a man covered in bandages standing in front of the main building, but his thoughts are cut short when the manager tells him to come back after 7 p.m. when Pembroke's treatment ends. Before leaving, Lockhart drinks a glass of water and thanks the manager for helping. Sadly, on their drive down the hill, a deer suddenly runs out of the forest and crashes into their car. It gets stuck in the windshield, causing chaos. Enrico loses control, and the car veers into a ditch. 3 days later, Lockhart wakes up in a room at the spa. Soon after, the spa's director, Volmer, comes in and tells him he broke his leg in the accident. Volmer says he's already informed Lockhart's company about what happened and suggests he try some of the spa's treatments while he's recovering. Once Volmer leaves, Lockhart sips some water and notices a man outside, sealing up the same basement window he saw earlier. To his shock, he spots a tiny parasite swimming in his glass. Disturbed, Lockhart slips out of his room and finds Pembroke in the bathhouse. He urges the old CEO to return home with him, but Pembroke says he can't because he's not well. Then he dips into the water, and when he resurfaces, he suddenly seems more alert and starts talking about the stock market again, as if snapping out of a trance. He agrees to go back to New York and run the company once more. Overjoyed, Lockhart quickly packs, books a taxi, and waits for Pembroke. While waiting, he meets an amateur historian named Victoria Watkins. She takes him to the ruins of a church where the Baron once executed a priest. People from far away once came here for the miracles linked to the holy water. Lockhart shares what he knows about the Baron's obsession with keeping his bloodline pure, and Victoria says she'll investigate further. Later, Lockhart meets Hannah, the youngest patient in the spa. She tells him she's special because she's the only one allowed to drink the blue bottle vitamins that Volmer and his staff also take. When Pembroke never shows up and is missing from his room, Lockhart confronts Volmer. Volmer claims Pembroke's health got worse and he's been moved to the next stage of treatment. Lockhart accuses him of lying and of making patients sick on purpose to keep profiting from them. Suddenly, Lockhart's nose starts bleeding and he collapses. Volmer brings him to his clinic for tests. There, Lockhart notices a photo of Hannah on the desk. Volmer explains she's special to him because she suffered severe trauma when she was very young. He then looks at Lockhart's medical file and advises him to start treatment. Reluctantly, Lockhart agrees, but while Volmer is distracted, he steals Pembroke's medical records. Lockhart is placed inside a water tank for treatment. During the process, the attendant becomes distracted and the tank quickly fills with eels. Lockhart panics and tries to get out, but one eel yanks off his breathing tube. He almost drowns before the attendant pulls him out in time. Gasping for air, Lockhart complains about the eels, But to his surprise, they are gone from the water. Lockhart goes back to his room and starts reading through Pembroke's file. While glancing out the window, he spots a man leading a patient into the old church building. The next morning, Lockhart asks his historian friend, Watkins, about the church, but she doesn't know its current purpose. Instead, she confirms he was right about the Baron and his sister's forbidden relationship. But that wasn't the real reason the villagers destroyed the place. She explains that the Baron had been carrying out twisted medical experiments on his peasants. Farmers began finding horribly deformed bodies left in their fields, dried up like ancient Egyptian mummies. Fearing they'd be next, the villagers joined forces and brutally killed the Baron and his bride. After hearing the story, Lockhart realizes the Baron might have been searching for a cure for his sick wife. Suddenly, a male nurse arrives and takes Watkins away for her treatment. After this, Lockhart wanders through the grounds until he sees Hannah riding her bike. An idea comes to him. He offers her a ballerina toy if she shows him around the town. Hannah, who seems childlike in her thinking, happily agrees. They ride together for a while and eventually stop at a local tavern for a meal. To Lockhart's surprise, he runs into Enrico, the driver from before. Enrico survived the crash and even got a new car from the spa, though the reason for their generosity is unclear. As they share some beers, Lockhart learns more about Hannah. She says her mother died in a fire when she was little, and her father will return for her once she's cured. She even lets Lockhart take some of her blue bottle vitamins. Leaving Hannah at the bar, Lockhart goes to see Peter, the only doctor in town, though he's actually a veterinarian. Peter examines Pembroke's file and points out that the man's teeth are falling out, likely from severe dehydration. This confuses Lockhart, since the spa constantly makes patients drink large amounts of water. He begins linking this to the Baron's experiments and the dried-up corpses found in the fields. While it's believed the Baron was burned alive 2 centuries ago, Lockhart finds it strange that people are still coming to the spa for a cure, the same thing the Baron once sought for his wife. Peter adds that her illness was actually infertility. He then rushes off to help a dying cow. The animal had gotten sick from drinking contaminated water from the spa. When Peter cuts open its stomach, a horrifying sight emerges, a dead calf along with several eels spilling out. Lockhart goes back to the bar and calls his boss in New York. To his shock, he finds out Volmer never told the company about his accident. His boss angrily orders him to return to New York with Pembroke within 24 hours. Frustrated, Lockhart confronts Hannah, demanding to know why no one is allowed to leave the spa, where Pembroke is, and what's in the blue bottle vitamins. The timid girl refuses to answer any of his questions. Losing his temper, Lockhart gets into a fight with a local patron. Things quickly spiral out of control, and he's about to be killed, until Volmer suddenly shows up and saves him. Without arguing, Volmer takes both Lockhart and Hannah back to the spa. That night, Lockhart again sees the staff taking patients into the church. He also notices one of his teeth becoming loose, so he goes to reception to report it. While the nurse steps away to get medicine, he rifles through her files and finds Pembroke's room number. On the way there, he bumps into Watkins and tells her that the Baron's experiments are still going on. She reveals that the Baroness wasn't infertile, she was actually pregnant on her wedding night. Before the villagers burned her alive, the baby was cut from her womb and thrown into the aquifer, yet somehow survived. Lockhart eventually reaches Pembroke's room and is horrified to see the CEO, along with several other patients, trapped inside water tanks. He tries to release Pembroke but fails. Suddenly, Volmer catches him and, as punishment, straps him to a chair before drilling a hole into his front tooth. In the next scene, Lockhart somehow escapes the spa with Enrico's help and heads into town. He runs straight to the police station and tells the officers about Volmer's twisted experiments. Volmer is summoned to the station, and Lockhart accuses him of carrying on the Baron's work and killing Pembroke. But Volmer calmly claims Lockhart has fallen for Watkins' conspiracy theories. He then calls Pembroke into the room, alive and well. Confused, Lockhart starts thinking he must have imagined it all, and he willingly returns to the spa with Volmer. Afterward, he undergoes multiple treatments, which slowly make him think and act like Pembroke. He starts believing he's sick and needs to stay for a cure. One day, while writing a letter to his company, he suddenly regains his senses. Smashing a glass, he uses a shard to cut open his leg cast, only to discover his leg was never broken. Determined, Lockhart forces open the church gates and steps inside. There, he uncovers Volmer's secret lab, where the experiments take place. He also finds an underground pool where corpses are dumped and fed to eels. One of the bodies is Mrs. Watkins, killed for knowing too much. Before he can leave, a worker spots him, but Lockhart manages to knock the man out and escape. Meanwhile, Hannah is swimming in the pool when she suddenly has her first period. Moments later, eels begin circling her in a perfect ring. Strangely, they don't hurt her, but the sight terrifies her, and she quickly scrambles out of the water. She runs through the spa's halls until she bumps into Lockhart. He tries to tell her the truth about what's happening, but a panicked Hannah strikes him and runs off. She heads straight to Volmer, who is dining with the patients. Lockhart follows and yells loudly that Volmer is a fraud who is making everyone sick by poisoning their water. Sadly, the patients don't believe him. Instead, they gang up and attack him. Lockhart loses consciousness and later wakes up locked inside a chamber. Volmer appears and begins revealing the truth. He explains that the eels normally live only a few years, but in the spa's aquifer, they can survive for up to 300 years. For humans, though, this same water is toxic, which is why so many patients fall ill. Centuries ago, the Baron discovered a special way to filter the water so humans could drink it, but the filters had to be living people who endured terrible suffering. The Baron didn't care and sacrificed hundreds of peasants until the villagers rose up and killed him. After telling this story, Volmer shoves a tube down Lockhart's throat, sending live eels into his stomach. These creatures extract a substance, the so-called vitamins, from his digestive system, which supposedly grants immortality. Soon after, Lockhart's teeth are repaired, and he starts behaving like the other patients, trapped in the belief that he's sick. Meanwhile, Volmer dresses Hannah in a new gown and marries her. Now that she's had her first period, he plans to sleep with her to continue their bloodline. In his room, Lockhart has another moment of clarity while reading through Watkins' notes. He finds an old portrait taken after the fire, breaks it open, and discovers a hidden photo of a man with bandages holding hands with a young girl, Hannah. The truth hits him. Volmer is the Baron, and Hannah is his daughter. He somehow survived the fire and has been living for 2 centuries under false identities, running the spa as a cover for his cruel experiments. He's been killing people, harvesting the vitamins from their bodies, and taking them to stay immortal, while giving them to Hannah, which is why she thinks she's special. Later, Volmer takes Hannah to a room and tries to assault her. Thankfully, Lockhart bursts in and stops him. Enraged, Volmer reveals his scarred face and attacks. Lockhart dodges and sets the room ablaze. The fire quickly spreads through the castle. Lockhart tries to free Hannah, but Volmer grabs him and drags him toward the eel pool to finish him off. At that moment, Hannah realizes her father is a monster. She breaks free, grabs a shovel, and strikes Volmer, sending him into the pool where the eels devour him. Lockhart and Hannah escape as the patients and staff flee the burning building. They hop on Hannah's bike and ride into the dark night. On the road, they run into Lockhart's bosses, who have come to check on the situation. When they ask about Pembroke, Lockhart tells them the old man is gone. They order him into the car, but he refuses. The movie ends with Lockhart riding off into the night with Hannah, a sinister grin spreading across his face.